Let's enjoy the end of summer on a 10-day journey from Anchorage down to the Kenai Peninsula. Whale watching, hiking, fishing, glaciers, breweries, and mingling with the locals are all on the agenda. Tag along with my wife and I as we take on Alaska.
Thank you for being back, Brady. We love having you here every year at TBFF. First question, why Alaska? Last time was Utah, if my memory serves me right. So you had 49 other states to pick. Why Alaska?
Well, Alaska's been on my list for a while, but actually it was pretty spontaneous. The trip, we were supposed to go to France, and that trip got canceled. A lot of things were going on in Europe, of course, with the pandemic and everything. So pretty much just, I already had that time blocked out. So I went on to Google Flights and found that there was some cheap tickets to Alaska. And we went ahead and just decided to go there. So it was pretty spontaneous. And I reached out to a few people there and just tried to do as much planning as I could and pre-production as I could in a short amount of time.
You mentioned throughout the documentary how many things have really stuck with you and really stuck out. Like, with this many number of months later, is there one specific item that really sticks out more than anything else for you from all those different high points?
I would just say what really blew me away was how undeveloped it is compared to a lot of the other places I've been. And it really is the last frontier. And I went and was looking at 4x4 roads that I could access, and there really weren't many. I saw very quickly why it's one of the aviation capitals, and everyone has to fly everywhere. It's just not super easy to get places there. And depending on how you want to get around, it will completely change your trip, whether you choose to rent a car or take a train or fly places. And so it's pretty interesting. And it's just absolutely massive. I would say what stands out to me the most is just how big it is. When you look at a map of Alaska, I have one next to me. It's a National Geographic map. And if you look at where our trip took place, it is in such a small part of Alaska. I mean, we barely covered any of it,
Right. So your documentary is actually part, travel log, but it has a social climate message to it. Do you want to address that?
I was trying to just observe what is going on and learn about it and just present the information, not so much trying to make an opinion on it or why it's happening, but just learning what's going on, seeing it from my own eyes. You hear about this stuff, but to actually see the glaciers receding and all that is really interesting. And I'm into the environment and geography and those kinds of things, so I just like learning about it and showing people what was going on and where things are at there right now when I was there.
Yeah, it's a clear graphic representation of glacier disappearing. That was for me, was one of the high points of the film. It's just so visual. One of the things you mentioned, and I'm very aware of that kind of situation coming from where I come from. You talk about how expensive everything is. Can you just give us a couple of examples, like how much is a pint of beer, for instance, and then other price points?
Yeah, it really depends. Where you are, of course. It's, as far as like the beer goes, I would say that's getting cheaper because breweries are popping up all over the place there. They're kind of trending right now, and more and more breweries are popping up. But it's more so the things that have to be imported. It's kind of like being on an island when you're in Alaska, just like Hawaii. A lot of things have to be imported, like vegetables. There's a lot of things that just have to travel a long way in order for you to get. So a lot of the meals, it was not so much, it wasn't common for there to be like a side of vegetables that comes with your plate or something like that, just because it's not super easy for them to get. And some of that could be with some of the supply issues that were going on. I mean, the world's been kind of crazy the last few years, so I'm not sure how that impacted things, but it's more expensive than, it's not like the cheapest place to go. You don't you don't go to Alaska because you're trying to do a cheap trip. It's just happens to be a little more expensive than some others, you know.
What's next for you now that you've done Utah, you've done Alaska? What's next?
Yeah, so I mean when it comes to travel, it's always a hard topic because of how expensive it is, and you know, I could only do so many trips a year, and I really want to. I've always been really inspired by Anthony Bourdain and how he was a little more into the food stuff than
Mm,
I am, but how he would interview
yeah.
locals and get a local perspective, and I really want to keep that going, like what I did with Alaska, and get to know the people that make up the land and not just go and do the mainstream touristy things. That's all fine, and I'll, you know, sometimes you just have to do some of that, but I really want to get to know the people behind the culture. And um, I have decided to make a feature film. I don't remember if this had started last year or not, but it's been in development for a while now. So I've been working on a documentary with the Maya and the Yucatan, and have decided to spend most of my travels working on that right now. So I'm headed back there in January and February, maybe even another trip before then, to keep working on this documentary. And most of the filming will be done in January and February with the Maya and this documentary. And then after that, I will edit it. So it's my first feature long film, you know, twice the length of what you saw in Alaska, but also very different because it's a documentary and not so much of a travel log, you know.
Besides the Yucatan, do you have anything else on the back burner?
We've got a couple other things planned, like a trip to Jamaica at some point, maybe in December. And I can't remember. There's a few places on the list. So there's some other trips happening, but the priority is definitely the feature documentary, just because it's the most meaningful to me, and I'm ready to take that next step and make something that is, like I said, it's a little more of a documentary about an important topic and something that could
Mhm.
create change. And as much as I love travel, it's kind of cool because this story combines the two, so it's pretty neat. Yeah.
Brady, we asked you this last year. What did you learn about yourself through the making of Alaska, Anchorage to Seward?
So this question I can definitely answer this year from Alaska. I think I kind of mentioned this earlier. What I really learned about myself is how much getting to know a place from the people behind it and the culture is very important to me, moving forward, versus just going somewhere and just to be in the scenery. Like the Utah film, you know, it was this just incredible beauty, and I was with one of my best friends. He's actually working on the documentary with me, by the way. He's going to help film it. But I learned that that's really what is the most fulfilling to me, is getting to know people and really like trying to present their culture and their land how they would want it to be shown. um and I've learned that I'm not going to stop making these films, that I'm really into storytelling. And as much as you want to just give up sometime, it's kind of like just oxygen at this point. I feel like if I'm not doing it, I suffocate, and I just have to keep doing it because I love it. And I'll never see myself ever not working on a film. So I've definitely learned that about myself.